The trade hub was the largest space station in the outer galaxy. It floated near a dying red star, spinning slowly like a metal flower in the darkness. 100 different alien species came here to buy, sell, and trade. The Galactic Concord kept soldiers on the station to maintain peace. Fighting was forbidden. Weapons were checked at the docks. It was supposed to be safe. Park did not feel safe. He walked through the crowded merchant quarter with his daughter's small hand in his. Was 7 years old, with bright, curious eyes and hair cut short because she hated brushing it. She looked at everything with wonder. The tall insect-like selling glowing plants, the heavy stone-skinned haggling over metals, the floating jellyfish creatures that communicated through color changes. For this was an adventure. For it was a risk he wished he had not taken. But work was work. Earth's colonial expansion needed new crops that could grow on harsh worlds. Was a scientist who studied alien plants. He had come to meet a botanist about hybrid seeds. The meeting would take 3 days. He could not leave alone on their colony ship. Her grandmother was too sick to watch her. So here she was, walking through a galaxy that did not always welcome humans. And walking beside was a honey badger. She weighed about 12 kilograms and stood no higher than Snee. Her fur was gray and black, her claws were thick and sharp, and her eyes held an intelligence that made other species nervous, held her harness loosely. The girl and the animal moved together like 2 parts of the same creature. Had not wanted to bring. The Galactic Concord had rules about Earth animals. They were classified by how dangerous they were. Dogs were allowed with permits. Cats needed special approval. Honey badgers sat near the top of the danger list, just below the great cats and bears. Bringing one onto a conquered station required mountains of paperwork and a promise that the animal would remain under control at all times. But had refused to leave without. She had cried. She had screamed. She had locked herself in her cabin and would not eat. In the end, gave in. He always gave in to. She was all he had left of his wife. Had died 2 years ago, a sickness that Earth medicine could not cure and alien medicine did not understand. She had been a wildlife veterinarian before the colonial program recruited her. Had been her patient first, then her companion, then her family. When knew she was dying, she had made promise 2 things: take care of and never separate from. The badger will protect her, had whispered in those final days. Better than you. Better than anyone, that is what they do. They do not know how to give up. Had thought she was being dramatic, often was, but now, watching scan the crowded station with those black predator eyes, he understood what his wife had meant. The honey badger did not see the alien wonders around her. She saw threats. She calculated distances. She noted exits. She was not on an adventure. She was on guard duty. Several aliens moved away as they passed. A group of merchants stopped their conversation to watch. Were large creatures with 8 limbs and bodies covered in hard plates. They had evolved as ambush predators on a jungle world. Their mouths hid venomous fangs that could paralyze prey in seconds. They were not friendly to humans. The conquered had forced them to stop hunting other species for food, but old habits lived in their eyes. One in particular watched for a long time. His name was, though did not know this, was not a merchant. He was a slaver. He operated in the spaces between conquered laws, taking beings who would not be missed and selling them to the outer rim colonies where questions were not asked. Humans were valuable. Human children were more valuable. They could be trained. They could be shaped. They lasted longer than adults. Had been watching for 3 days. He had learned her routine. He knew which corridors her father used. He knew the family was alone. No guards, no crew, just a small man, a smaller girl, and a strange earth creature that the other merchants whispered about. The creature concerned slightly. He had looked up honey badgers in the Concord database. The file was full of warnings: aggressive, fearless, known to attack predators many times their size, immune to most venoms, difficult to kill, but his species had conquered worlds. His venom could drop a charging beast in seconds. What was one small Earth animal compared to him? He decided to take the girl tomorrow. There was a sanitation corridor between sectors where the surveillance did not work properly. He had disabled the nodes himself. The father would be easy. One bite and the man would be paralyzed for hours. The animal would be dealt with quickly. Perhaps he would keep its pelt as a trophy. Clicked his mandibles in anticipation and returned to his false merchant stall. He did not notice that had stopped walking. He did not notice that the honey badger was staring directly at him through the crowd. He did not notice the way her fur rose slightly along her spine or the way her claws clicked against the metal floor. Could not speak. She could not warn, but she knew. Every instinct in her small, fierce body knew something was hunting her family. And honey badgers had very specific ways of dealing with hunters. The next day began like any other. Took to breakfast in the station's common area. They ate protein paste that tasted almost like eggs and drank synthetic juice that tasted like nothing at all. Sat under the table, chewing on a piece of dried meat that had brought from their ship. She ate slowly, her eyes never resting, always moving from face to face in the crowded room. Talked about the aliens she had seen. She wanted to know why they glowed. She wanted to know if the floating jellyfish creatures had feelings. She wanted to pet her even though their stone skin would cut her hands. Answered her questions patiently. He loved her curiosity. It reminded him of. After breakfast, they had a meeting with the botanist. The meeting was boring so let her play games on her tablet while he talked about soil composition and growth rates. Lay at its feet, seemingly asleep but never truly resting. Her ears moved at every sound. Her nose twitched at every new smell. The meeting ended in the early afternoon. Was pleased. The botanist had agreed to provide seeds for 3 new crop varieties. Earth's colonies would eat better because of this trip. He held his hand as they walked back toward the docking sector where their ship waited. They took the sanitation corridor. It was a shortcut that had discovered on their first day. The corridor was narrow and poorly lit, but it cut 20 minutes off the walk. He did not notice that the surveillance nodes above them were dark. He did not notice the shadow moving behind the maintenance panels. Struck without warning. He exploded from the shadows, all 8 limbs reaching. His venomous fangs sank into his shoulder before the man could even turn around. The poison worked instantly. Felt his muscles freeze. He felt himself falling. He could not move his arms. He could not move his legs. He could only watch as the floor rose up to meet his face. Screamed. The sound cut through the corridor like a knife. It was the scream of a child who understood danger, who knew that something terrible was happening. She tried to run, but was faster. His upper limbs reached for her, clawed hands ready to grab. Moved. There was no growl. There was no warning. There was no hesitation. One moment the honey badger was at its feet. The next moment she was in the air, 14 kilograms of muscle and fury launching at his throat. Had fought many creatures in his life. He had hunted beasts on a dozen worlds. He had killed prey twice his size. Nothing had prepared him for this. His claws tore through the soft tissue beneath his mandibles. Her teeth found the tubes that carried his venom and ripped them open. Screamed and tried to throw her off, but she held on. Her thick skin and loose fur made her impossible to grip. Her claws dug deeper. Her teeth found new targets. He slammed her against the wall, felt her ribs crack. She did not let go. He stabbed her with his sharp leg spines. The wounds bled freely. She did not let go. He bit her with his remaining venom, pumping poison into her small body. She shook once, twice, then kept attacking. Honey badgers were immune to most venoms. Evolution had made them that way. They lived among cobras and scorpions. They ate creatures that would kill any other animal. Poison burned through her system and found nothing to shut down. Watched from the floor, paralyzed but conscious. He saw his first 2 limbs come away from his body, severed at the joints by claws that could dig through concrete. He saw this blood spray across the walls, purple and thick. He heard sounds that would haunt his dreams for years. Wet tearing, hollow crunching, the gurgling attempts of a predator who had become prey. had pressed herself against the wall, hands over her ears, eyes squeezed shut. She was crying. She was shaking, but she was alive. Did not stop until stopped moving. Then she stopped a little more just to be certain. When she was finally satisfied, she climbed down from the body and limped toward. Blood covered her fur. Some of it was hers. Most of it was not. The honey badger pressed her head against S's leg. The girl opened her eyes. She looked at the thing that had been. She looked at her father lying frozen on the ground. Then she knelt down and wrapped her arms around her protector. "Good girl," whispered through her tears. "Good girl." Licked her face once, leaving a streak of purple blood on her cheek. Then she sat down, facing the corridor entrance, and waited. Her wounds were bad. She was tired, but her job was not done. Someone might come. Someone might try again. She would be ready. Station security found them 20 minutes later, following the trail of blood and the sounds of a child crying. They came with weapons drawn, expecting to find victims. Instead, they found a paralyzed man, a traumatized girl, and a small earth creature sitting on top of a dead slaver, calmly licking blood from her paws. The galaxy had many predators. It had just learned that Earth had sent one of its own. The Galactic Concord moved quickly when one of its citizens was killed. Within hours of the incident, was taken from and placed in a containment cell. Still recovering from the venom, was told that his animal would face tribunal judgment. Under Concord law, any creature that killed a sentient being had to be destroyed. The family would also face fines for bringing a dangerous organism onto the station. Did not eat for 2 days. She sat in their ship's cabin and stared at the wall. She did not speak. She did not play. She just waited, holding his empty harness in her hands. Tried to comfort her, but what could he say? The galaxy had laws. Those laws did not care that had saved their lives. On the 3rd day, Hope arrived. Was Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Concord. She was 63 years old, with short gray hair and a face that showed every battle she had ever fought. Before she became a diplomat, she had been a soldier during Earth's unification wars. She had seen humanity at its worst. She had also seen it at its best. When she received the message about the incident, she canceled all her meetings and took the fastest ship available. She arrived at the station with a team of lawyers, 3 scientists who studied Earth animals, and a collection of files that the Concord had hoped would stay buried. The tribunal convened in the station's largest chamber. Representatives from 30 species sat in a circle, their different forms creating a strange garden of alien life. The delegation demanded justice for their dead citizen. The Concord peacekeepers presented evidence of the killing. Holographic images showed what remained of. Several representatives made sounds of disgust, then stood to speak. She was small compared to most of the beings in the room. Her voice was quiet, but when she spoke, everyone listened. "You want to kill this animal," she said, "because she defended a human child from a slaver. Let us talk about that word, slaver." She pressed a button on her tablet. Images appeared in the air above the chamber. Human children, 17 of them. Their faces were scared, confused, hopeless. Some were as young as 5. Some were teenagers. All of them had been taken from colonial ships over the past 10 years. These children were kidnapped from human vessels, continued. They were sold on the outer rim markets. Some were worked to death in mines. Some were used for worse purposes. Their families begged the Concord for help. Do you know what they received? Forms. Investigations that went nowhere. Apologies that meant nothing. The chamber was silent. Walked to the center of the room. Her eyes moved from delegation to delegation. When she looked at they shifted uncomfortably. Was a known slaver. His activities were documented. The Concord knew what he was. You let him operate on this station because his people have trade agreements that your economies depend on. You let him hunt human children because humans are new to the galaxy. We are weak. We have no powerful allies. We are acceptable losses. Raised a limb. Ambassador, these accusations are serious. Do you have proof? I have 17 dead children, replied. I have communication records between conquered investigators and officials, showing how complaints were dismissed. I have financial reports showing which species profit from human trafficking. Would you like me to read them into the record? The lowered its limb, turned to face the full tribunal. Here is what I know. A predator attacked a human child. A creature from Earth stopped him. That creature did what the Galactic Conquered could not or would not do. She protected an innocent life. And now you want to kill her for it. She walked to where sat with. The girl looked up at her with red-rimmed eyes. This child's mother died 2 years ago, said softly, loud enough for the chamber to hear. Before she died, she asked her husband to keep their daughter safe. She asked him to never separate from. Do you know why? Because she understood something that your laws do not. Looked at the tribunal one more time. Humans bond with other creatures. We have done this for thousands of years. Dogs, horses, cats, and yes, honey badgers. We share our lives with them, we share our homes, we share our families. They are not pets to us. They are not property, they are family, and family protects family. She sat down. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Finally, a spoke. Its voice was like rocks grinding together. What do you want, Ambassador? Smiled. It was not a warm smile. I want the charges dropped. I want return to her family. And I want the conquered to finally do something about the slavers who prey on my people. She paused. Or I can release these files to every news network in the galaxy. Let the citizens of 100 worlds see how the conquered protects its weakest members. The tribunal called for a recess, had given them much to think about, but she was not finished. The hardest part was still to come. They wanted to testify. Refused at first. His daughter had been through enough. She had watched an alien try to kidnap her. She had watched her honey badger tear that alien apart. She had not slept properly since. Making her stand before the tribunal and relive those moments seemed cruel. He told Ambassador that he would not allow it. But heard them talking. I want to speak, she said from the doorway of their cabin. Her voice was small but steady. They need to understand. Knelt beside her. Sweetheart, you do not have to do this. The Ambassador is fighting for us. Fought for me, replied. Now I fight for her. There was something in her eyes that reminded of that same stubbornness, that same fierce love. He looked at. The Ambassador nodded slowly. She will be protected, promised. I will be right beside her. The next morning, stood before the tribunal. The chamber felt even larger than before. Aliens of every shape and size looked down at her from their seats. Some had too many eyes. Some had no eyes at all. Some breathed gases that would kill humans. They were ancient species who had traveled the stars when Earth's people still lived in caves, and they were all watching a 7-year-old girl. Held's harness in her hands. She had refused to let go of it since the honey badger was taken. Her fingers rubbed the worn leather as she waited for permission to speak. A leaned forward. Its translator device made its voice sound almost kind. Child, do you understand why you are here? Yes, said. You want to kill because she killed the bad alien. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably at her simple words. Can you tell us what happened? They asked. Took a deep breath. Ambassador stood nearby, ready to intervene if needed. Sat in the gallery, his hands clasped so tight his knuckles were white. We were walking back to our ship, began. Dad was holding my hand, was next to me. Then the alien came out of the dark. He bit my dad. Dad fell down. He could not move. The alien tried to grab me. She stopped. Her lower lip trembled, but she did not cry. Stopped him, she continued. She jumped at him. She would not let go. He hurt her. I saw blood, but she would not let go. She never lets go. A representative stood. Its voice was angry through the translator. Your animal murdered a citizen of the conquered. Does this mean nothing to you? Looked at the... She was a child facing a creature that could kill her with one bite, but she did not look away. He was going to take me, she said. He was going to sell me. I know what happens to human children who get taken. My dad showed me the reports. He told me I had to know so I could run, so I could hide, so I could fight. She held up the harness. Did not murder anyone, she protected me. That is what she does. That is what honey badgers do. They protect their family. They are not scared of anything. Not because they are stupid, because they love too much to be scared. The chamber was completely silent. Continued, her voice growing stronger. My mom gave me before she died. Mom said would always keep me safe. Mom was right, is the reason I am alive. She is the reason I am standing here. She looked around the room, meeting alien eyes without fear. I am 7 years old. I should not have to fight slavers. I should not have to be afraid. But the galaxy is not safe for human children. You know this. You let it happen. She pointed at the tribunal with a small finger. Made it safer. She did what you could not do. She stopped a monster, and now you want to punish her for it. Tears were forming in her eyes now, but her voice did not shake. If you kill her, you are telling every monster in the galaxy that human children have no one to protect them. Is that what you want? No one answered. Wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I am done talking, she said. I want my badger back. She is hurt. She needs me, please. The last word broke something in the room. Several representatives looked away. As light patterns shifted to colors that their species associated with shame, even the delegation had nothing more to say. Ambassador stepped forward and put a gentle hand on shoulder. Thank you, you were very brave. The girl shook her head. Is brave, I am just loud. Despite everything, smiled. She looked at the tribunal. You have heard from a child who should never have been in danger. You have seen the evidence of your failures. Now you must decide. Will the Galactic Concord be remembered as the government that killed a little girl's protector? Or will you finally do what is right? She led back to her father, wrapped his arms around her and held her tight. The tribunal called for a final recess. When they returned, the galaxy would be different. Words had made certain of that. Some speeches were made by politicians. Some were made by soldiers. But the most powerful speeches were made by children who simply spoke the truth. The galaxy had heard her. Now it had to answer. The tribunal deliberated for 6 standard days. During that time was finally allowed to visit in the containment facility. The honey badger had been treated by station medical staff, though they admitted they knew little about Earth creatures. Her ribs were healing. Her wounds were closed, but she had not eaten since being separated from. She had not slept. She had simply sat in the corner of her cell, facing the door, waiting. When walked into the room, made a sound that no one had heard her make before. It was soft and high, almost like crying. She pressed herself against the barrier that separated them, knelt down and put her hand against the transparent wall. I am here, she whispered. I am okay, you saved me. The honey badger's black eyes never left her face. Her nose pressed against the barrier where his hand rested. Watched from the doorway. He had never seen an animal show emotion like this, had always been fierce, independent, wild in ways that made her difficult to love. But now he understood. She was not difficult to love. She simply loved differently. She loved with teeth and claws. She loved by standing between her family and danger. She loved by refusing to give up, even when her body was broken and her blood was spilling on the floor. Thank you, said quietly. Eyes flicked to him for just a moment, then they returned too. On the 7th day, the tribunal announced its decision. The chamber was full. News drones from 100 worlds floated near the ceiling, broadcasting to billions of viewers. Humans from nearby colonies had traveled to the station to show support. Even some aliens stood with them, species who had their own histories of being preyed upon by stronger civilizations. The lead was a being made of light and crystal, ancient beyond human understanding. Its voice filled the chamber like music. The Galactic Concord has considered all evidence and testimony. We have examined our laws. We have examined our failures. We have examined our conscience. The crystal being paused. We have found ourselves lacking. A murmur ran through the chamber. The creature designated will not be destroyed. The charges against the Park family are dismissed. The turn toward the human delegation. Furthermore, the Conquered recognizes that our current laws do not adequately protect young members of newer species. This failure has allowed predators to operate freely. This failure ends today. Ambassador stood. This was what she had been fighting for. Effective immediately, the Conquered ratifies the following changes to galactic law. First, companion animals from Earth will no longer be classified by threat level alone. A new category is established for creatures that form protective bonds with other sentient beings. These familial guardians will have protected status under Conquered law. Felt tears forming in his eyes. Second, the Conquered establishes a joint task force to eliminate trafficking networks across all member territories. This task force will include human investigators. They have proven they understand the value of protecting the vulnerable. Third, any species found participating in the trafficking of sentient beings will face immediate sanctions, including removal from the Conquered. The crystal being's light flickered toward the delegation. There will be no exceptions. There will be no delays. There will be no more acceptable losses. The representatives said nothing. They knew they had lost more than this single case. They had lost the protection that had allowed their darker trades to flourish. Finally, they continued, this set of reforms will be entered into the permanent record as the provision. Let history remember that a child's words changed the galaxy. The chamber erupted. Humans cheered. Friendly aliens celebrated. Even some who had opposed the changes nodded in respect. The law was the law, and the law had changed. In the containment facility, a door opened. Stepped out slowly, still limping from her injuries. Was waiting. She dropped to her knees and opened her arms. The honey badger crossed the distance between them and pressed her head against the girl's chest. They stayed like that for a long time. Later, Ambassador found in the observation gallery. Below them, the tribunal chamber was emptying. History had been made in that room. They are afraid of us now, said. Not our ships or weapons. They are afraid of what we will do for our children. Nodded, was asleep in the next room, curled against her side. Neither had moved in hours. They asked me something, continued. They wanted to know if all Earth creatures were like honey badgers, if everything on our planet fought that hard for its family. What did you tell them? Smiled. There was something old in that smile. Something that remembered campfires in the darkness and the sound of wolves howling at the edge of human camps. Something that remembered a time when humans were not the strongest creatures on their world but survived anyway, because they never gave up and never abandoned their own. I told them the honey badger was one of the gentle ones. Laughed despite himself. Below them, the galaxy continued its business. Trade ships came and went. Aliens walked the corridors. Life moved forward, but something fundamental had shifted. A small creature from Earth had shown the stars what humans had always known. Love was not soft. Love had teeth. And love would tear apart anything that threatened its own. On a dying star's station in the cold darkness of space, a little girl slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. Her protector slept beside her, one eye half open, still watching, still guarding, still ready. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Earth did not send its children to the stars alone. It sent them with guardians who would rather die than let them be harmed. And now the universe knew what that meant. Some bonds could not be broken. Some love could not be measured. And some small, fierce creatures would fight until the end of everything for the ones they called family. That was the human way, and it was beautiful.